In Leadership Part 2, CyberCards, we're going to continue with our leadership discussion, but we're also going to dig a little deeper into you as a leader and what level of leadership you have. So, what a leader is not. Someone who likes to haze other people because it's tradition or because they're freshmen and they deserve it, right? Hazing is humiliating and sometimes dangerous initiation rituals. That could be anything from the red belly of the football players giving it to each other, or the 80s movies of the freshmen trying to get into the frat house, right? But have you ever been hazed? Have you ever seen someone who's been hazed or hazed someone else? I bet at the end of that, did either of them feel like they were part of the team after that? I would assume not. I'd assume they'd want to get the heck out of there, and they don't really trust anybody around them, right? So think about this, right? Would you consider calling people names in the shop continuously and saying rude comments to people or miscommunicating with others on purpose as hazing? Do you think that's hazing? Drew Dudley has redefined leadership by encouraging us to celebrate these lollipop moments, as he calls them. Check out this video.
How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader and we don't let ourselves take credit for it and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school in a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day, and if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what.'" And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shinorama, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, "You need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you." And she said, "I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life." He turned beet red and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face and you looked at my mom and my dad and you said, "Look at that, look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger." And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm going to miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, "You should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later." A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I've searched my memory banks because that is funny and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us." And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today.
Seek to first understand, then to be understood. Principles of empathetic communication. Empathetic listening, putting yourself in another person's shoes, right? So when I'm hearing someone's problem, I need to understand it from their perspective. Maybe they misheard you, maybe they didn't understand what you said, but putting yourself in their shoes helps you communicate more effectively. Diagnose before you prescribe, right? Listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so use it, right? Use your 2 ears to understand what's going on. And if someone's really driving you insane and grinding your gears, I statements work wonders. I learned this when I was in high school as a peer facilitator, and I think it's been the best thing that I've ever learned. So here we go. I feel blank when you blank because, and instead would you. So for example, I feel left out when you overlook me when I try to give you ideas because I have a lot of ideas and you keep doing that. Instead, would you please make sure to listen to everyone's ideas because I think we're all important. That's a great way to communicate your feelings to someone in a very specific fashion. And once you can do that and you've decided to seek to understand, then seek to be understood. So, what level of leader are you? What level of leadership are you? John Maxwell is one of my favorite authors, and in his book, 5 Letters of Leadership, he explains that each of us is at a different level of leadership, and we can even be at a different level of leadership at a different time, depending on each relationship we have, right? So the purpose is to show you where you are as a leader. How do you get to the next level of leadership, and where am I aiming, right? Where am I aiming is the pinnacle, which is the respect level, right? People follow you because they respect you. Throughout the book, he explains that leadership isn't a position or a title like captain. That isn't just leadership. That's a management style. Captain is management, not leadership. It is a journey, right? Leadership is a journey. How do I learn how to deal with people? Because leadership is dealing with people and the dynamics between those people, which also means the better you can influence people, the higher your leadership ability will be. So let's look at the 5 levels of leadership so you can figure out where you are at and what level you are.
For 30 years, I've been teaching this, and I've taught this for West Point and Microsoft and Lilly and Delta and the largest organizations and companies in the world come and say, John, teach the 5 levels of leadership, because they understand that if you and I today in these few minutes can understand how leadership works, and by the way, leadership's not a noun, it's a verb. It's action, it's moving. And if we can understand how to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4 to up to level 5 in our leadership, we expand our leadership, we expand our influence, and we expand our effectiveness. So I'm ready to go. I know you're ready to go.
So the level 1 position is really low. That's the bottom of the barrel. That's the, hey, I just became a manager, so they have to listen to me now because I'm the boss. So the only influence you have at that level is because you have a title. People who stay at this level get into territorial rights. We have a lot of that on the robot team, right? Territory. This is my territory. You need to get out of this area. This is us. This is what we do, right? Protocol, or we did it because we always do it this way. We've always done it this way, so we're going to do it this way. Well, that's the position level of leadership. That isn't real leadership. A real leader knows the difference between being the boss and being a leader. The boss drives his workers and the leader coaches them. The boss depends upon authority, the leader on goodwill of people to follow them because they love them and respect them. The boss inspires fear because I want to fire you if you don't do your job. I'm the boss. The leader inspires enthusiasm. Again, be your teammates' biggest cheerleader, right? That's our goal this year, is to be finishers and to be the biggest cheerleaders for each other as possible. The boss says I, the leader says we. The boss fixes the blame for the breakdown. The leader fixes the breakdown. The boss knows how it's done, and the leader shows how it's done. The boss says, go do this. The leader says, let's go do this. Positional leadership often doesn't work in volunteer organizations, which is why this is the hardest thing for a robot team to get past, is because there's no leverage for anyone, the coaches, the mentors. Because if I say, do this or you're fired, they go, okay, bye, because I'm a volunteer. So positional leadership is really hard at the volunteer organizations. And we know that we're past this level because the proof of the leadership is its followers.
Okay, here we go. Level 1, we're going to start at the very bottom level. This is where you start. This is where we all start. The bottom level is the position level. At level number 1, this is where we all start. We all start with a title. We all start with a job description. We all start with a position, okay? And the key word at level number 1, the key word is rights, R-I-G-H-T-S, rights. In other words, people at level number 1 follow you because they have to. In other words, you're the boss, or you have a title, or you're the supervisor, and anybody that's under that person, they just basically follow that person. Now, this is the beginning of all of our leadership journey. We get a leadership position. In fact, people will come to me all the time. They'll say, John, I just became a leader last week. And when they tell me they became a leader last week, I know what they meant. They really didn't become a leader last week. What they really did is they got a leadership position last week. And by the way, the position doesn't make you a leader. I know a lot of people who have a position of leadership, but they're not a good leader. You know that too. You probably worked with them before. So the position doesn't make you a leader, but if you're a good leader, you can really make the position. But it's where we all begin. Now, the upside of level 1 is simple. It's a place where you and I get to shape and define our leadership. We get a leadership job, we become a supervisor, and now we begin to work on ourselves as a leader, and we begin to define who we are. That's kind of the upside. Now let me give you the downside of level number 1. The downside of level number 1 is the people who follow you will give you the least amount of their energy and effort. In other words, if they're following you because they have to follow you, if they're following you because that's what they've got to do to get their paycheck, if they're following you because you have the position over them, if that's the case, they will always give you the very least of their time and of their ability and of their effort and of their mind. People don't like to have to follow people because they have to follow people. And this is a great mistake that people that have positional leadership make. They think, well, I've got the title, I've got the position, so now everybody will follow me. Well, they're following you, but they're only following you many times if you're not a good leader because they have to. It's the only way that they can get paid. Just think of this. Level number 1 is where you're going to get the very least of people's energy, effort, and mind. Let me tell you, I've seen it many times when I've gone to work with companies on leadership. You can always tell a level 1 leadership company or level number 1 leadership culture. You can always tell it because, let's say quitting time is at 5 o'clock. In level 1 positional type companies, if quitting time is at 5 o'clock, guess what? At 4:30, everybody is clearing the desk. Oh yeah, they're moving stuff out of the way because it's only 30 minutes until the highlight of their day. And so they're already starting the countdown. So they're clearing their desks because they want nothing to impede their progress when they leave the building. So they've got at 4:30 the desk starts getting cleared. At 4:45 they get away from the desk and they go around and they go to the different cubicles and they're saying their goodbyes. And they're saying, boy, it was great to be with you today and had a good time and see you tomorrow. And they're doing all that kind of stuff because, again, at 5 o'clock, the big time, at 5 o'clock, they don't want to have to be encumbered by doing relationship stuff. They want to do that on company time. You understand that. At 4:50, they're going to the restroom. Of course. You want to be sure to pee on company time. Of course, so they're over there in the restaurant. They're just, okay, now they got that at 4:55, they're back at their desk, and they're changing shoes. They're changing their shoes. They're getting on track shoes. They're getting on, they got to get something, because at 4:57, they are in a starting position. They are counting down. And at 5 o'clock, everybody's gone. I mean, you say, what do you mean everybody's gone? Everybody's gone. At 5 o'clock, they're all gone. I mean, you look around the office, and they're gone. In fact, they're gone so fast it startles you. And you run over to the window to look out in the parking lot, and you're totally shocked. All the cars are gone. And you ask yourself, how could people leave a building so fast without a fire drill? Let me explain. In positional companies, when people come and park in the morning, they're very careful how they park. They back their car. Yeah. They back their car in because they know at quitting time they want to be able to get a fast escape because now they're on their time. And I can promise you, you show me a positional company, a positional culture, you show me leaders that are positional in their thinking, and I will promise you every time, not all the time, every time, those people will constantly wonder, why am I not getting the best out of my people? Well, you're not getting the best out of your people because the only reason that people are following you is because you got a title. And they're going to give you very little energy. Now, the good news is you don't have to stay at level number 1. You can go to level number 2.
Level 2 is the permission level, right? Leadership is getting people to work for you when they are not obligated to. And this is kind of where I sit at, I think, during robot season, is because people follow me and work with me and for me, and they're not obligated to. So they've given me that permission. Leaders in the permission level lead by interrelationships. I have to always make sure everybody feels good and everybody's on the same page, right? The agenda is not pecking order, but people development. It was really interesting when I read the story about Henry Ford. And Henry Ford, I didn't know if you know this or not, but Henry Ford wanted to control all aspects of manufacturing. From the rubber plant that goes in the tires to the manufacturing. He even bought a coal mining facility and then figured out that getting the coal from the facility on the trains, he didn't have the money to buy the train station to get the coal to his plants, so he got rid of the coal. He just sold the coal plant because he couldn't buy the trains to get it there, right? He wanted to control everything in the manufacturing process. Well, the problem with that is the level of leader he was the boss. So Henry Ford made the perfect car, but when it came to saying, when people came and saying, hey, we'd like a different color, he remarked, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. And that relationship status there of me being the boss and you get what I give you, that's when his decline started. And other companies like Chevy started offering multiple colors. People who are unable to build solid, lasting relationships will soon discover that they are unable to sustain long, effective leadership. So he started his downward spiral when he stopped being relational to his customers.
Let's go to level number 2 as quickly as we can. The first level is the positional level. The key word there is rights. I get certain rights, so you've got to follow me. Level number 2 is the permission level. And at the permission level, the key word is relationships. And at this level, people now begin to follow you because they want to. Now, there's a world of difference between following somebody because you have to and following somebody because you want to. Now, what happened between levels 1 and 2? Well, what's happened is you've connected with your people. You've not only connected with them, but relationally, they like you and you like them, and you've got to know each other. And so now in this work environment, they're not following you just because you are a supervisor. They're following you because you do have a position. You are a supervisor, but you are a supervisor that people like. And I'm always amazed. Aren't you amazed? I'm always amazed at people that have leadership positions or responsibilities, and they're not likable. Do you know what I mean? They're just not likable. People don't care for them. It's tough being in the people business and not having people like you. It's tough. In fact, sometimes I see them and I just want to sit down with them and say, "My name is John, and I'm your friend. And I just want you to know, people don't like you." How many, oh, come on, let's just have some fun. How many of you have ever had somebody you worked for that you just didn't like? And no, wait, oh, that was close. Let me qualify this for you. Not in your present job situation. You understand? No. I know that is not happening where you are now. You are happy. But how many of you in another job at another time on another planet? Come on. All right, come on. How many of you ever had somebody you had to follow and they just weren't like, let's see the hands. Come on, let's get those hands. Absolutely. All right, there you are. All right, let me ask the real question. How many of you are seated beside that person right now? Relationships with people are the foundation of leadership. You build your leadership off of relationships. Why? Because leadership is influence. And you cannot influence somebody that you antagonize. And every one of us know what it's like to have somebody, that's hard to like. Well, let me ask it this way. How many of you have ever been in a grocery store and you looked over about 3 aisles and you saw somebody you didn't want to see? And how many of you ever done? And the good news is, the bad news is you saw somebody you didn't want to see. The good news is they didn't see you. How many of you ever done this number? Huh? Hid from somebody. Now, in this, on level number 2, what happens is you begin to develop relationship skills. And let me describe the leader on level 2. The leader on level 2, they have 3 things that they do extremely well to be a relational leader. One is they listen well. In fact, they take all of their leadership cues from walking slowly through the crowd and listening. They listen well. Secondly, they observe. They're conscious about where their people are and what their people are doing, and they're constantly observing them. And thirdly, they're learning. They're learning. And then in the process of listening, observing, and learning, they have an attitude of servanthood. They know how to serve. And they not only know how to serve, but they do serve. And they not only do serve, but they love to serve. One of the things that I love about Chick-fil-A, I live in Florida now, and so when I went down there, I began to talk to Chick-fil-A people. Said, come on, you got to get a whole bunch of Chick-fil-A's down in my area because I lived in Atlanta and I need my Chick-fil-A fix, and they're starting to come down and it's wonderful. But can I tell you what I love about Chick-fil-A? They have a servant culture. Level number 2, they got that wired. They've got this relationship stuff wired. It's my pleasure. How can I serve you? It's a mindset. It's a culture. And if you're going to grow as a leader, you have to grow beyond your position, beyond your title. Yes, you have a position. That's level 1. But the second level is relationships and the ability to get along with people. That's level 2. Let's go to level number 3.
Level 3. Level 3, at this level, good things start to happen. And this is where we get the big momentum, right? In a game where the big mo happens, we score first, and now we're running down the field, right? We're ready to win. That's the big mo, right? Leading and influencing others is start to be fun. We work together. We're having great. Everybody is results oriented. Results are the main reason for the activity. And this is where I believe we sit most of the time during build season, right? Everybody is results oriented, and we're trying to follow the big mo. All right, we got this piece done. Go to the next piece. All right, we're going to get there. We're almost done with this thing. It's going to be great. Many people have created great results who are not qualified to do this. We got the freshmen to learn this new CAD skill, and this freshman did all this CAD work, or this freshman put in this rookie who've never held a tool in their life, put in all these rivets, right? That's what we're talking about with the production phase. People who are not qualified are helping us get our work done. Now we're moving in the right direction.
There's another level higher. The third level is the production level. The key word there is results. And at this level, you're starting to help the bottom line of the company. You're starting to, quote, bring home the bacon. You're at this level, you become effective as a leader. And you become effective as a leader on level number 3 because you produce. And the characteristics of leaders at level number 3 are very common. One is that they produce by example. In other words, they are the example for the other people that follow them how to be effective and how to be productive. You see, the greatest motivational principle in the world is that people do what people see. And too many travel agents, they're like, or too many leaders are like travel agents. They're sending people where they've never been themselves. And you want to be a tour guide. You want to take people with you. You want to say, this is the area where I've been, this is where I live, this is the area where I lead, come along and follow me. And at level number 3, your leadership begins to gain credibility because now you are fleshing out for the people around you, and you are modeling for them things that they want to see, and you are starting to produce. Which something else happens, because you're becoming productive in your own life, you begin to attract people that begin to be productive also. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that I wrote, one of the laws is the law of magnetism, and the law of magnetism just says we attract who we are, not who we want. So when I talk to leaders, often when we talk about recruiting, then I'll say, well, what kind of people do you want in your company? What kind of people do you want in your department as a supervisor? And they'll give me a list. They'll write things, I want somebody that's self-disciplined, and I want somebody that is service-oriented, and they'll give me a list of 4 or 5 qualities. And as soon as they give me the list, I look at those qualities, and then I ask them a very simple question. I say, okay, do you possess those qualities? Because see, on level number 3, basically who you are as a leader is who you attract on your team. And at level number 2, or level number 3, what is wonderful is that at level number 3, when you start to produce, when you start to really develop, when you really start to grow things, you begin to get momentum. And momentum is a leader's best friend because momentum is the great exaggerator. And once you have momentum, all of a sudden things begin to look in such a better way, and it becomes easier to grow, and it becomes easier to lead. It's a wonderful thing. In fact, level number 3 is where a lot of the problem solving is taken care of. You see, managers, they try to solve problems where leaders try to create momentum, because leaders know that if they create momentum, they'll solve 80% of their problems with momentum. You see, momentum is a problem solver. Lack of momentum is a problem stopper every time. A train going 55 miles an hour on a track if you had a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall on the track in front of that train, because that train is going and has momentum going 55 miles an hour, that train would smash through that wall and would just keep on going. Why? Because it has momentum. Momentum allowed it to get through a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced problem. That's what momentum does. That same train, not moving at all, stopped dead on the track. No momentum. If you put a 1-inch block in front of the driving wheels of that train, just a 1-inch block, that train can't even get started. Now, isn't it interesting? Same train that smashed through a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall because it had momentum, that same train without momentum can't even get going with a 1-inch block, can't even get going. It has no momentum. In fact, that's why I tell people many times that when they look at the problems they have in their organization, your problem is not your problem. The problem is they think the problem is the problem, and so therefore they concentrate on a problem that's not a problem, and now that the problem it isn't a problem has become a problem, not because it was a problem, but the problem was they didn't know it wasn't a problem, and so now they're concentrating on a problem that wasn't a problem, and now they've got a problem not because they had a problem, but the problem has become a problem because they didn't know that it wasn't a problem, and so they got a problem. And momentum and level 3 leadership will take care of 80% of all the problems in an organization. It happens for sports, it happens for business, it happens in government. Momentum is a leader's best friend. It happens at level number 3. You got to get to level number 3 to get that mo going. Okay, let's go to level number 4.
Level 4 is where we hope to be, right? We need to know, how do we spot an excellent leader? That person, you know what I want to say, that dean's list, that above and beyond, that I created the FLL team, I created the commercials for the robot team, I created handouts for everybody, I went to every outreach event, I helped every single person when they need help. Since some people are mediocre, a true leader can be recognized because somehow his people consistently demonstrate superior performances. And this is what mentor Haley Rose did at Center Grove's team. She worked with some mediocre kids who were good, but they weren't great. And she got them organized, and she somehow got them to demonstrate superior performances, and they won a chairman's award. A leader is great not because of his or her title or her power, but because of his or her ability to empower others. We need to be our teammates' biggest cheerleaders, empower them, help them along the way. What's the difference between a worker and a leader? A worker's main responsibility is doing the work himself. A leader's main responsibility is developing others to do the work. A leader is going to show them how to do it.
Let me ask you a question before we go to level number 4. Are you learning something? Are you learning something? Okay, look at your neighbor and say, I'm learning something. Go ahead and tell them that. Go ahead and tell them that. I'm learning something. Look back at your neighbor and say, not enough yet. You still got 2 levels to go. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. Level number 4 is the people development level. This is what I live for. This is what I strive for. This is what excites me. Something magical happens when you begin to understand the most appreciable asset you have in any organization is the people of that organization. And you begin to commit yourself to developing the people within that organization, because how do you grow a company? You grow a company by growing people. And when you grow them, they increase their capacity. And when they increase their capacity, they begin to increase the capacity of what you can do and what you can accomplish. Let me just share with you quickly 3 thoughts on developing people, just very quickly. Number 1 is the key to developing leaders, and the key to developing good people is in recruitment. The better person you bring in the door, the higher odds that you can do well with them. I remember having lunch one time with Lou Holtz, and Lou Holtz said, John, I've had bad players on my football team, and I've had good players on my football team. And he said, just to be honest with you, I'm a better coach with good players. Of course he is. Of course he is. Let me say something. 80% of your success of equipping people to be successful is in the front door on who you bring in. I wish I had time to develop that for you, because what happens is, unless you and I have a clear picture of what we're looking for, we don't know when we see it. Happens all the time. People come to me and say, John, I'm looking for some leaders for my company. What do you suggest? The first question I ask is, what does the leader look like? Give me the characteristics, give me the qualities. Please paint a picture for me. What does that leader look like? Because you've got to have that clear picture so that when you see that person, you know that they're one that you want. Recruitment is key. Number 2 is positioning. The ability not only to bring the right person in the front door, but also to put him in the right places. Collins would say, get him on the bus, get him on the right seat. And position is huge. And what I've discovered is that successful people have always positioned themselves well. When you see a successful person, they're successful because what they have done is they've found their strength zone and they found their niche, and they stay right in that sweet spot, and they just work that sweet spot. You've never heard anybody be in an interview that was successful that you came up and you interviewed them and they said, well, the secret of my success is that I've never discovered what I was good at. Or the secret of my success is I've always worked on, I've just worked in my weakness. No, they're always in their strength. They've already discovered what they're good at. Now, successful people have discovered what they're good at. Successful leaders discover what other people are good at. Successful people position themselves well. Successful leader position the other people well. And at level number 4, that's exactly what happened. The leader is always looking at the people, observing, watching. Just like last week, I went back to my first school. I graduated from Ohio Christian University in a little town in Circleville, Ohio, and it's a little school, and I go back every year and I give them a day to speak, and they get all the proceeds and keep the money. And so because I grew up in that town, I told one of my friends that played ball with me, Tim, I said, Tim, let the ball players, let the team know, let some of my high school kids know that I'm going to be in town, and let's have a dinner afterwards. And we had over 50 people came together. I hadn't seen many of my high school mates since I graduated from high school, clear back in 1965. And we had a wonderful time. We laughed and talked and told stories for 2 hours, and Coach Neff, our basketball coach, he came back. I hadn't seen him for years. And when I saw him, I thought of myself, and I thought of back in those scrimmages in basketball, because the first scrimmage every year, Coach Neff would take the first team, and he'd say, now I'm going to let you play the second team, but there's one condition. The first team is not going to play their position. And he'd take Doug Roth, who was 6'8", and put him out at point guard. I remember he stuck me one year under center, and he put all the first team players out of position on offense. But he let the second team play in their position. And the second team always beat us in the scrimmage. Why'd they always beat us? Because, and then he would stop and he'd say, let me just explain something to you. No matter how talented you are, if you're out of position, you'll never reach your potential. What was Coach Neff teaching us? He was coaching us, and he was teaching us that it's key to get positionally correct. And it's also, as a leader, key to get your people in the right position. And at level number 4, that's what happens. At level number 4, you recruit well, you position well, and then you equip well. Now you take them and say, okay, I understand what their strength zone is. I understand what their giftedness is. Now I'm going to equip them. I'm going to come alongside of them, and I'm going to develop them, and I'm going to train them. And I use a very simple, for many, many years, a simple 5-step equipping process. It really works. Step 1, I do it. It's that simple. You can't teach somebody what you can't do yourself. We may teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are. So if you're going to reproduce yourself, you got to be it yourself. So the first step is I do it. Step 2 is I do it and you're with me. I take you with me. Now we're going to spend time together. I'm going to be your mentor. I'm going to be your coach. You're going to watch me. You're going to observe me. You're going to see me in different situations. We're going to make sure that it works. We're going to make sure you're going to be able to ask me questions. Step 3 is now we turn it, and I hand the ball off to you. Now on step 3, you do it. You do it, and I'm with you. Now I'm watching you, and I'm tweaking you, and I'm helping you to get better, and I'm just really fine-tuning you. Step 4 is you do it. You just do it. You don't need me anymore. You know how to do it, and you do it, and you do it well. And many times people think that equipping stops at step 4, but it doesn't. There's one more step that's absolutely essential. Step 5 is you do it and somebody's with you. You've never really trained and equipped somebody until they can multiply themselves. That's where all compounding is. That's where all compounding of time, money, influence, the whole process. Compounding begins when you can train somebody who has trained somebody. I know that well because 14 years ago, I started a nonprofit organization called Equip that is now the largest leadership organization in the world, and we've trained and equipped over 3 million people in 154 countries. And the key to that is we don't train anybody unless they make a commitment to train somebody else. It has to continue to go on. That's level number 4. It's a beautiful level to be on. It's the level where you develop people. Now there's one more level.
Finally, the tip of the mountain, personhood. Maxwell says only a lifetime of proven leadership will allow us to sit at level 5 and reap the rewards that are eternally satisfying. I do know this, that someday I want to sit atop this level. It is achievable, Maxwell said. That's where I want our team to be, and that's where I want to be as a teacher and a coach.
That's level number 5, the pinnacle level. The pinnacle level, the key word there is respect. You've done it so well with so many for so long that people just absolutely follow you. They follow you because of who you are, the qualities you have in your life. They follow you because of what you have done. And there's a great amount of respect. And it takes a long time to get to level number 5. Most of us aren't there. All of us would probably like to be there, but it's a lifelong journey. And what I want you to understand about the 5 levels is that's exactly what leadership is. Leadership is an always ongoing, always learning, growing process. Okay, let me ask you a question. You've got the 5 levels there, and you can see them, and you can see how each one kind of leads into the next one. And probably the question you've asked yourself now by this time, because you're a sharp crowd, you've asked yourself, wonder what level I'm on. Am I on level 1, or am I on level 3? Am I on level 4? You've already done that. I know you have. That's what I would be doing if I'd be sitting there. I'd be saying, okay, where are you, Maxwell? And if you ask that question and you kind of go deep in that question, you're going to get a little frustrated because you know what you're going to discover? You're going to discover that you're not on the same level with everybody. That with somebody, you're maybe on level 2. With somebody else, you may be on level 4. Isn't that true? If somebody new came in the company, you're on level 1 with them. And what you're going to discover is that you're on different levels with different people. Now, I wish I had an hour to teach this whole process, but here's what I want you to understand. Here's your assignment, very simple. Take the people that you lead, put their names down, and ask yourself a simple question. What level am I on with that person? Do your best to kind of put a number there, and I know it can kind of bleed together, so it's not quite an exact science, but do your best shot, because after you know what level you're on with each one of your people, then you're going to know specifically how to lead them. Now here's the key. Whenever you try to cast vision with people in your organization, in your department, they don't see you based upon who you are as a person or as a leader. They see you through the 5 levels grid. And a person on level 1, when you talk about a vision, a person on level 1 sees you entirely different than a person on level number 4. The commitment level is much higher the higher you go with your people. So therefore, when you cast a vision or when you lay it out for your people and say, this is where we want to go, just understand it may be the same company, it may be in the same building, it may be the same time, it may be the same speech, but the reactions are going to be different. And the reactions are going to be different because they're on different levels with you. So take the notes, study them, apply them to your life, begin to be a student of the 5 levels of leadership. And I wish you well, because leadership is influence. Always has been, always will be. And within you, you have the power to increase that influence. God bless. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Finally, use the provided pages to determine your level of leadership and how you will advance to the next level. How do you know when you have advanced to the next level?